Hi, and welcome to the Experiment Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Terrio. This is a space, a podcast, a container where we give soul to the practical and the logical, and we give feet and legs and grounding to the magical, the mystical, and the woo-woo, all with the direction of personal development and moving towards our highest potential self and life. Today's episode is piggybacking off of our last episode, which was all about me sharing a little bit about what's happening in my life right now and the approach that I'm taking. And to summarize, I am going through a breakup, and in the past, going through breakups, especially with this person, because this person that I am going through this breakup with now, we have been on an up and down roller coaster for the last 6 years. So we have broken up and gotten back together more times than I can count, honestly, and more times than I truly ever care to think about or admit. It's almost embarrassing how unstable this relationship has been. And in the past, when I have gone through a breakup, I've kind of done the same number of things, right? I grieve and I give myself space to feel that grief. I reach out to all my friends who I hadn't talked to in a while, and I get on the dating apps. I start dating and going out and having fun and reinvigorating my social life and finding myself again. And what was happening in our pattern was I would do all of these things and he would do all of his things, the same things. And 3 or 4 months post breakup, he would reach out again and see that I was thriving and finding myself again and happy again and not insecure and anxious because I was not with a partner who was lying to me or misleading me or maybe not totally sure about me. And we would try again, and time would go by and we'd end up here again. Looking in retrospect and being deeply attuned to where I am in this moment, this breakup at this time period is so different than it's ever been. There are some extenuating circumstances that I will not talk about or share. And then on top of that, we have a daughter now who absolutely deserves happy, stable parents. This breakup has truly broken my heart in a new way, in a way that I truly didn't think my heart could be broken. I thought we'd done it all. I thought we had hit the rockiest, deepest bottom possible. And I was very wrong. I was completely, absolutely wrong that things could not get worse, because they did. And they've reached what I hope and pray is the actual true rock bottom for me. I have decided that in order for me to truly heal and overcome this heartbreak, I can't revert back to the same patterns. That day old cliche that something like people repeat the same patterns and actions and keep doing the same things, expecting different results. And that is the true definition of insanity. And for 6 years, really, truly for almost 30 years, I'll be 30 in December, that is what I've been doing. Reliving these patterns, letting myself stay stuck in these limiting beliefs. This time, this moment, the last year that has led up to this moment has been so devastating. And there have been so many things done and said that are just, part of me wants to say unforgivable and irreparable. And I know that in order for me to forgive and repair the damage within myself, from myself, not anything external, I cannot keep doing the same things. And this is truly a pivotal moment in my healing journey and, quite frankly, in my life. This is probably the most pivotal moment I have ever just sat in. And with this journey of not wanting to do the same things I've always done, I've realized that the way that looks for me is actually by becoming an entirely new version of myself, becoming the woman who could never imagine experiencing the things that have happened in the last 6 years. The woman who would have never stayed, the woman who would have never forgiven or justified or fought or believed that love needed to be earned by suffering. Because truly, I always say that there have been high highs and low lows in our relationship, but there have been more lows than highs. And I've allowed this relationship to steal all of the goodness in me and to just suck me dry. And here I am, sitting rock bottom, empty. I have nothing left in me. And so I wanted to take the time in this episode to really share the tangible experiment, and more than experiment, the new way of being I am stepping into for myself, at least for the next year, to give myself the time and the space to heal. And I want to share what those parameters will look like for me. Like I said, I'm in this very deeply right now. This is the most present, real thing happening inside me. And as I say in every episode, but I just want to say it loudly and clearly in this one, I am not screaming from the mountaintops of being healed. I am truly in this. I am in this dark, lost, confused space. And there's a part of me that hesitates to share this because it almost feels too vulnerable and too fresh. But I truly believe that in order for us both, you as an listener and me as a person sitting in front of a camera recording this, in order for us to have the most mutually beneficial relationship, I have to show up as I am in any given moment. And I'm not sharing this for pity. I'm not sharing this for sympathy. I'm not sharing this for empathy. I'm sharing this because this is a learning opportunity for us both. The lessons that I'm learning here are universal, and I pray and hope you never land here. But if you are here, or if you've been here, or if maybe the next chapter of your life might look like this, I want to be a solid force for you that you're not alone and that we all go through this. Suffering is inevitable, but it's painful. Eat, Pray, Love is one of my favorite movies. I've probably seen it over 1,000 times. I've been watching it since high school. And I used to watch it like once a month. It's pretty ridiculous. There's a part in the movie when Elizabeth Gilbert is in Bali and she and a man that she meets are talking about their divorces, and he's sharing just how devastating and heartbreaking his divorce was. And he asks Liz about hers, and her response is, mine was far less tragic. We just outgrew each other, basically. And Felipe, the man she meets, he says, hearts were broken. And then he responds, then it is the same. And what he meant by that is heartbreak is heartbreak. Grief is grief. Sadness is sadness. Anger is anger. Rage is rage. And I know sometimes we play this game with others of like, my trauma, my pain is bigger than yours, but heartbreak is heartbreak. We all know the pain of heartbreak. The circumstances might look different, but we all carry it. It's universal. And I hope this serves as one, a place that we can return to in the heat of the suffering or in the coldness of the suffering. And this can be a moment, a pivotal moment in my life and hopefully in yours, where we take action to co-create a life with more joy and more peace and more stability and more mutual love. I had a very, I would say, traumatic upbringing. I've experienced more loss than most people experience in their lifetimes. I don't want to go into significant detail, but I do want to share some of those things so that you guys have some context around what has shaped me to be the woman that I am today. And that looks like my parents having a relationship very much like my latest relationship looked. It was fiery and passionate, but toxic. And they had 3 girls. I was the third. I have 2 older sisters. And my dad left. My mom ended up leaving. I was sexually abused at a young age. My dad ended up dying when I was 9 in a car accident. I had hardly seen him in my growing up. It was not frequent enough for a father. And my mother had cancer. She was gone and came back. And when she came back, we were kind of rebuilding our lives. And at the same time, my grandfather, my dad's dad, who was probably the most present father figure I ever had in my life, died when I was 12 in a car accident. And then 2 days after my 13th birthday, my mom died from cancer. And my entire upbringing was never having a stable home, never having really stable maternal and paternal figures. My grandparents were such a blessing, but they were older, and it's just, there's a different texture to having your mom and your dad. And I lived with another couple of other family members, and that was really painful, and I never felt wanted or welcome. And my sisters and I were all split up, and I clung to romantic relationships because all of the important and integral relationships that should have been just there and that I should have never had to beg for or question or doubt were never there, and they were never stable. So I clung to romantic relationships because it felt like the only place I could get love. And my God, as humans, I think we all know the just yearning and longing to just be loved, to be accepted, to be held. Like literally, it is the human condition to want to belong. And I have been in a very toxic pattern with myself since my childhood of being in romantic partnerships that have been damaging to me and that I have damaged others. And I've truly lived the duality of almost every possible experience. I have been cheated on and I have been the cheater. I have been lied to. I have lied. I have been manipulated. I have done the manipulating. I have dated men. I've dated women. I've been pregnant. I've had a miscarriage. I truly have done maybe not all of it, but so much of it. I've lived so many iterations of life. And it makes me sad for myself to see myself here at 29 years old. And my God, I have done so much healing work. And I'm so proud of myself too. It's this like weird cognitive dissonance of like, I've done so much work. And 5-6 years ago when we started this relationship, I was a completely different version of myself. And I was so much more stuck in the patterning and the wounds than I am now. But I feel sad for myself, and I do feel angry at myself for how much I have absolutely betrayed and abandoned myself consistently over the last 6 years, really truly believing this person outside of me more than I believed myself. This moment is truly sobering. It is not pretty, and it is truly one of my darkest, heaviest experiences in my life. But it's also simultaneously, and I'm seeing it in real time, the biggest catalyst in my life. A part of me is so desperate for softness and for ease and for peace. And like I said, I just know that that softness and that peace is unattainable through the means of which I've lived my life up until this point. And so I've become aware of this patterning in me. I've become aware of the devastating truth of this situation. I am allowing myself to sit in the overwhelming, high-pitched heartbreak of this moment. And I have decided that this is my Eat, Pray, Love year. And if you haven't watched Eat, Pray, Love, like I said, it's my most favorite movie ever. It's on Netflix. Go watch it. It's truly so beautiful. Long story short, Elizabeth Gilbert goes through a divorce, decides to travel for a year. She travels to Italy, India, and Bali, Indonesia. And each country she lives in for 4 months and has a specific, I guess, purpose. And in Italy, she relearns pleasure and joy and like living again. She's just feeds herself in Italy and enjoys the pleasures of that and builds a community there. And then she goes to India and reconnects with God. And then she goes to Bali and reunites with love. And it's done romantically, but there's also this huge moment of just like personal honoring that she does. Go watch it. But she spends the year celibate. And any version of myself before this one right now, I would have heard the word celibacy and been like, that's not for me. I tend to have a very high libido. I love the freeing notion of sex. I think sex is an important part of life, sex and pleasure. But I'm seeing now that, again, I've been too enmeshed and entangled in romance and needing partnership and needing someone outside of me to tell me that I am loved and that I am worthy of love. I don't want that anymore. I have to rebuild from the ground up this relationship with myself, this foundation of truly sovereignty and the trust of knowing that I am perfect as I am. And I don't need someone outside of me to tell me they love me for me to know love. And so, drum roll, I've decided to spend the next year celibate. I am decentering romantic relationships. I will not be dating. I will not be having sex. I will not be pursuing romance outside of myself with anyone else. I truly want to spend this year with myself and with my daughter and reconnecting to my own sense of pleasure with myself, reconnecting to God, just me and God and my daughter, and establishing an unshakable, unbreakable foundation of love within myself. I truly just need to remember who I am when I'm not being desired or mirrored. In addition to the celibacy, I've also decided to spend the next year sober, which I'm not much of a drinker anyway. I don't really use substances to comfort myself at all, ever. But, like I said, I've lived this pattern where I go out and I drink and I have fun and it's great, but I don't want alcohol to be a source of pleasure for me. And I also don't want to put myself in a position where I am not thinking clearly and in my complete wholeness. So I will be sober for the next year. Like I said, I'm decentering romance. I am no longer chasing the high of being wanted. This year is truly all about sitting with myself in the uncomfortable silence of sitting with myself. No noise from anyone else. And in all this silence and in all of this space that would typically be taken up by a partner, I want to see what grows in that. I want to see what can blossom there. I am committed and devoted to taking better care of myself. And that looks like eating well and nourishing myself and moving and resting and creating solid spiritual, somatic routines. I also want to say, though, that I'm nurturing grace within me as well. And, this breakup is incredibly fresh, and it's important to me to give myself the space to experience the duality of a breakup, which is simultaneous hope for what's to come and the devastating truth of grief and pain and rage and sadness. And allowing myself to rest even when everything outside of me is telling me I'm not allowed to. Feeding myself or nourishing myself even when my body doesn't and can't eat, because when I get down, I have no appetite and I can't eat. And grace in those moments looks like finding a softer way to nourish my body and still feeding her some way, somehow, something, whether that's bone broth or just a small, tiny snack, eating what I can in those moments. This matters because in order to get to the other side, I cannot keep repeating these patterns, these painful, painful patterns, and calling that love. I have to redefine love for myself, within myself first. This matters because I don't want to keep building my life around survival and begging. This matters because I want my daughter to grow up knowing what love actually looks like. Healthy, gentle, tender, conscious love. And I will teach that for myself, with myself first. And so she can learn that too. And hopefully someday, maybe someday, I'll meet a partner who can meet me here in this space. This matters because I want to trust myself again, fully, wholeheartedly, not just in practice, in my actual everyday life. This matters because I know with all of me that if I don't do something radically different and become someone new right now, I can already see where that path leads, and I'm not going to allow myself to end up there. Celibacy and sobriety are or maybe feel like very extreme decisions, especially in our hypersexualized, substance use driven society, right? And they are pretty radical ideas. They are pretty radical actions to take. And not everybody needs to take this level of urgency and radical decision-making with change. And that's totally and absolutely okay. I am in no way, shape, or form saying that this is what you need to do. This might not be your path to healing your breakup. And that's okay. Your path might look totally different. And honestly, it should. Your life is different than mine. Your experiences, your personality, your everything is different than mine. Of course, your path would look different than mine. But if you've been living in a fog, if your relationships are starting to feel more like coping mechanisms, and if you're exhausted and disconnected from yourself, then this is an invitation for you to pause and to ask yourself, what can I do that is actually radically different than what I have been doing, and what feels aligned for me to do now? I invite you to clear the noise, sit in the pause, and truly see what comes forward. This is the year that I actually, truly, undoubtedly, devastatingly choose myself. Thank you for showing up here today and for listening to my most vulnerable episode yet. I appreciate you showing up and supporting me and letting me be a vulnerable human in this weird, crazy, painful world. If you haven't already, please go to Spotify or wherever you stream your podcasts and rate and review the podcast. I love getting on YouTube every week and seeing the comments. I usually get like at least one comment on the last couple of videos from total strangers. And it feels so cool to see just people that I don't know listening and enjoying the podcast. And that is part of why I'm doing this, right? To connect with you and to share with you and to remind you that we're all human and life is truly a lab and we're all experimenting with what is and also what could be. Feel free to follow me on Instagram or subscribe on YouTube. I see a couple of little trickling in subscribers every week too, and that's really fun and keeps me going. So thank you, and I truly, deeply love you and respect you and can't wait to see where we go from here. Thank you.